Good day to you. Jim Laird joining you live from Deer Elma, Nicaragua. Hope you're doing well today. Let's get going live here on Instagram. We have a little bit of a thunderstorm brewing here in the background. StreamYard does a pretty good job of blocking things out, so it could be interesting. I live right next to Mombacho, the volcano. I lived in Tucson for a while back when I was a GA at the University of Arizona, and some of the most impressive lightning shows I've ever seen were back when I was living in Tucson. And it's pretty impressive though if you've never been near a volcano during a thunderstorm. There's some pretty impressive lightning strikes, and I'm not far from the volcano at all. I'm like literally like a 5-minute drive from the volcano, and so a lot of times lightning will hit the volcano, and it's pretty intense. I've had times when my house actually shook, almost like an earthquake, because the lightning was so close. So we've had trees on the farm here get hit by lightning. So pretty intense. Some of the thunderstorms here. It is the rainy season. So the hidden danger indoors, how your lifestyle fuels obesity. And we're going to get into this. People are always arguing about carbs and insulin resistance, and it's the valid stuff. But really, we look at the obesity crisis epidemic that's going on in the United States. We have 70% of U.S. adults are either labeled overweight or obese today, compared to 30% in 1970. So what has really drastically changed between like now and like 1970? And really, I mean, people will argue food and chemicals and all that stuff, and that's valid. But honestly, the average American in 1970 was only spending about 55 to 65% of their time indoors, and they were only getting about 2 hours of screen time a day. They had TV, and you had limited channels. And honestly, at like 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, the screen would just go to all bars. So I'm dating myself by talking about that. So you couldn't be up till 3-4 o'clock in the morning scrolling through all the average American today spends up to 8 hours on their phone or on a computer screen. So, what happens when we totally obliterate, people don't go outside. The average American spends 90% of their day indoors. What happens when we obliterate the circadian rhythm, the body's 24-hour clock? Essentially, the sun, your circadian rhythm literally runs your entire system. Your appetite regulation, your immune system, your hormones, your cognitive function is all decision making. This is all run with your circadian rhythm and sleep, your ability to manage stress. And so if you're basically, constantly on your phone, you never go outside, you never get natural light, and you're on your phone at night, you're destroying that entire system. And it's no wonder we have a whole generation of people that literally can't stop eating, because guess what? When you're sleep deprived, you don't make good choices. You can't shut off your appetite. And not only that, we've got an endless supply of tasty food that's really cheap, that you just keep eating and eating and eating. And we don't have people going outside and walking. They're basically just sitting around all day. A lot of people still go to the gym, but that intensity doesn't make up for getting outside and being active. So I think the indoor life is really driving this obesity epidemic. And that's why we're looking at, I got an email from Groupon the other day, and every offer was a GLP. And guess what? Your body produces GLPs naturally, and it helps regulate appetite. And guess what destroys your body's ability to produce GLP? Lack of sleep and stress, right? So, I'm not saying don't take a GLP. I'm probably going to do a video on that, because it's everywhere. Basically, if I was going to take one, how I would do it, because a lot of people are just going to take it. But if you don't change your habits and your lifestyle and you take the GLP, you're going to get yourself in really big trouble. So, there needs to be more stress, particularly they're talking about GLPs for children. It's like, we need to get them outside. We need to get them off the phone. We need to get them, healthy, like just taking a GLP for the rest of your life is not a good long-term strategy. We need to actually fix circadian rhythm. Like you might get on a GLP and you might lose a bunch of weight, but what are the consequences of being sleep deprived um, for your entire life? Eventually, it's going to bite you on the ass. So, and I mean, this is so simple to fix, right? Um, Take a 10-minute walk in the morning, take a 10-minute walk at noon, take a 10-minute walk before you go to bed. You know, open some windows in your house, sit out on your patio, get out several times a day, get off the phone about 2 hours before bed. It's not like it's that tough. If you need to be on the screen, try and do it out on your patio like I'm doing right now. You know, I'm outdoors. Wear blue blocking glasses at night. These are all really simple things that you can implement that will make a big difference. Like one of the reasons I don't talk about supplements or peptides or all those things and I don't lead with them is because I've seen people make unbelievable changes to their life, their body composition, just by getting outside, just by making the 5 fundamentals the foundation. But it's human nature to like basically want that quick fix. And, you know, history is basically covered with, you know, all these different supplements and procedures that have been like instant weight loss, like solutions that ended up being banned because they were killing people. So, you know, you got to be really careful when these things come out. And I mean, there's a whole list of them. Let me actually search it here real quick. Let's get the list of fat loss drugs. Fat loss drugs that got banned. Let's put that in the old chat GPT. Let's see what it tells me. Let's see. Here's the list of all the fat loss drugs that were approved and then later were not approved. Let's see here. Let's go to the top. Sorry. This is kind of a spur of the moment kind of thing. All right. Here's a list of all the fat loss drugs. I can't even pronounce this. Berdina, withdrawal from 2010, other reasons, withdrawal, risk of heart attack and stroke due to cardiovascular toxicity, marketed as appetite suppressant. It was pulled after studies showed elevated heart risk, still found in some illegal weight loss supplements. Of course, the good old caffeine, ephedra, aspirin, banned, linked to 22 deaths, over 800 serious events, including heart attacks and strokes. Widely used in weight loss energy supplements, mini thins banned by the FDA. And I'll say this, ephedra is very effective at fat loss. Most bodybuilders would just use it towards the end of their prep cycle just to get that difficult fat off. But a lot of people were just popping it and weren't changing their lifestyle. A lot of these things, if you use them as like a tool to kind of speed the process up for a short period of time, like you put it in for a couple weeks, like if you look at like a lot of my good friends over the years have been bodybuilders, and what they do is they sleep a lot if they're smart, they train hard and they sleep a lot, but they pull out like what coming from a contest standpoint, they'll pull out like the junk food, and then they'll make these changes over time. Like the first month they pull out the junk food, and then you know the second month they might reduce their calories a little bit, and then the third month they clean their diet up even more. They take the condiments out, and then the fifth, or you know the fourth or fifth month when things start slowing down, then they add in some performance enhancing drugs. So it's not like they're doing the drugs and the supplements the entire time. They're adding it in as things get more difficult, and that's what people are doing. They're like, well, I'm not going to change my lifestyle. I'm not going to change my diet. I'm just going to take a GLP. It's going to make me magically lose weight. And that's when people get in trouble. So let's see. Lorcaserin, Velvicu, 2020 withdrawal. Increased cancer risks identified in clinical trials. Let me back up here. I went too far. needless to say, I won't go all these things, but there's like 10 or 15 drugs that are listed on, like, with side effects of, they're for fat loss, and they were withdrawn because they just found out they had massive side effects. And so, with these peptides, with things like Ozempic and things like that, obviously the side effects are going to increase as you increase the dose. But a lot of these things that are being pushed, like we have the statin drugs that were pushed. Now we're realizing that they have massive side effects. And not only that, when you lower cholesterol too much, it increases your risk of early death, dementia, diabetes, all sorts of other things. So a lot of times things that are pushed as quick fixes end up, being like, oh, that wasn't a good idea. So be very careful to run down, when everyone's running down a path, right? And one of the big mistakes that happens with the GLPs is people take them in a big bolus. Like, I've talked to people that have taken the recommended dose, say it's 5 milligrams. They take that 5 milligram bolus, and they literally can't. They don't feel like food makes them nauseated. Like, for 3 days, they feel nauseated. They don't want to eat. So the smarter way to do it, and I'm not a doctor, but if you were going to do it, you would microdose it. Maybe you would take 0.5 milligram every other day, right? So you wouldn't have that crazy appetite suppression, and you wouldn't get sick to your stomach, and you wouldn't have those side effects. But it would take the edge off enough with your cravings, whether it's alcohol, and then you get outside, you fix your circadian rhythm, you get yourself in a better place, and the GLP takes the edge off. You're not craving ice cream. You're not craving chips. It makes it easier to change your habits. And then if you do it that way, you don't have to take such a high a dose. And then your risk of side effects goes down dramatically, right? If used as an assist to enforce and create habits, it's great. The problem is when you just take it and you end up, like, one, you got to lift weights with it. Two, you got to make sure you get enough protein. A lot of people just stick with the same diet, which is crap, and it's protein deficient, and then they just eat less crap, and they'll lose weight, but then they end up looking terrible, feeling terrible. So you want to eat enough protein, you want to microdose, and you want to lift weights when you do it, and you got to change your lifestyle. Because if you just take something that's going to make you lose weight, great, you lose weight, maybe your health markers improve. But being sleep deprived and chronically overstressed over time is going to lead to other problems. The reason you can't shut off your appetite and create better habits is generally because you live an indoor life and you're sleep deprived. If you want to take some things to kind of speed that process up, great, but make sure you fix those habits. Make sure you build your foundation on those 5 fundamental habits. Get outside 3 times a day, walk outside 10 minutes, preferably after meals, eat a protein at every meal. Get the lights off at night. That's so important. High quality water, have social connection. If you build your foundation on that, and then you use some tools, you're going to have a much better chance of success. If you build your foundation on tools, peptides, hormones, and you don't change your lifestyle, it's not going to end well for you. I've seen hundreds of people over the years that are on every supplement, they're on every peptide, they're on every hormone, and they just can't, even the GLPs. I was reading some research that it talked about, if you're chronically stressed and if you're sleep deprived, the GLPs will not overcome that problem, that lifestyle issue. So you want to do everything you can to change your lifestyle and build those good habits so that you don't have to continue upping the dose. And, with any medication, supplement, any intervention, the risk always goes up when the dose goes higher and the intensity goes higher. So you want to use these things as a tool, and you always want to revert back to, I think, and I sound like a lunatic because I keep pounding this into the ground. Circadian rhythm is the foundation of health, and we've created a life a world that absolutely annihilates circadian rhythm. And I think it's basically been done by design to make you be a complacent, compliant consumer. That's essentially what I think the deal is. You can call me a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory person, but that's basically, what I think. So let's see if anybody has anything to say on Instagram. Dan Greenberg, how are you? Good to see you. So I'm going to get a lot of filming done this weekend. I've been working a lot during the week, coaching baseball, and so I'm busy most of the day. So hopefully I'll get a lot of content filmed this week. Don Levino's making a little appearance there in the background. But I appreciate you watching. Go to my recommended products page if you want to support the show. The show, of course, is sponsored by Faro, my friend Charles Mayfield, lard-based skin product. Awesome. Of course, I've got my Vitality Sisterhood, Vitality Brotherhood. I'm constantly posting stuff in there about habit change, about accountability. I've got workout stuff in there. You're more than welcome to join either one of those groups. Of course, I do coaching as well. You have some different coaching programs. You can go to Vitality Brotherhood, go to recommended products. You can book a call with me if you'd like to talk to me about me helping you basically stay accountable, come up with a plan for you, and help you achieve what your goals are, help you basically get yourself into a better place. But thanks for watching. I appreciate. Love to hear what you think about my opinion on this. But if you compare America in the 1970s to America in 2025, and you just look at 70% of Americans being obese now, and only obese or overweight, only 20, 25, 30% in the 1970s, that's a massive change in a very short period of time. And I would say the number one thing that's changed, obviously there's more processed food and that stuff, but I would say the number one thing that's changed is, most Americans don't go outside at all, and most Americans are glued to a screen. So I think that's the, excuse me, I think I'm allergic to the grass here, but I think that's why most Americans tend to not make good decisions and tend to be human vacuum cleaners, because they're just living indoor life and they're constantly in front of a screen, and they're constantly under this low level chronic stress. So we've got to get outside. We've got to take time to relax. We got to build that foundation of fitness, that foundation of health. And then we got to add some lifting and things like that in there and get ourselves into a better place. We need to basically use this as a tool, put it away, manage it. Don't let it manage you. So have yourself a great day. We'll see you again soon. Don't forget to get outside.